How do you find your stories? Where do you find them? And how do you know you found something you want to make into?
How do I find my stories? Mostly, it all depends on what excites you and what predominantly allows you to give you a visual representation in terms of a concept, right? So there's a lot of stories which is going around you, which you really can't use. But if you find a story like three friends, at different points in life, works in an office, plays music by the night, but then how do you visually represent that? So once you have cracked that, when you have a story and you can crack the visual representation of the story, and you're equally excited after having cracked that, that's when you find the story. I mean, for me at least, right? And I think for me also what happens is when I look at various concepts, it's not that you just look at one concept and usko jagah pe baitho. You need to know whether you're willing to give your whole life to make that story. Does it have something that you really want to say? Okay, is there a message? I mean, not message in terms of some kind of a deep, meaningful, intense shit, but something you want to take a stand as a filmmaker.
Which brings me to the question of when you write stories. You've written some of your own stories.
All,
yeah. When you write stories, do you write? So is it the story first and then the telling, or is your story written like a screenplay, or is it written like a novella that you then make into a screenplay?
except home delivery. I think most of the time I write a story first. Okay, I write a story. I write.
So it's like a short story or a novella.
Yeah, it's like a 4-pager. I write, so at least I know where my characters are. I know where they came from. I know where they're going. I know their background more importantly than anything else. I mean, for example, if Vidya is working with me, I should be in a position to tell her, okay, right now she's sitting in a police station, but where she was 3 days back, or what she was doing an hour ago. So I should be able to know that whole universe of my story. The bits that I pick and choose to tell is different. That I selectively use in my screenplay. So
that's a separate step for
you. Absolutely. And when you write a story, this is what I keep trying to, not as a gyan or something, but this is what I try to tell a lot of people. I see a lot of new people coming to me with stories and everything. Most of the stories that they write, they're actually writing a screenplay. Now, stories are never screenplays. You never write a story to make a film. You just write a story. And then you take bits from the story, you add to the story, you delete to the story, you change the story, you mold it to whatever it's needed in order to give you that visual representation. So I think...
Where have you learned to write stories? Where have you learned how to tell them?
Don't
think where... I mean,
I think, for example, I keep my benchmark as my grandmother. My Dida was the best. So, not in terms of storytelling, in terms of captivating my attention. Okay, so I keep putting myself in that position, saying when she was telling the story, and if I was so captivated, I don't know whether it was my age or whether it was my absolute zero knowledge of environment around me, whatever it was, I don't know those factors, right, which played into capturing my attention. But I would like to be in that position. Where I am telling you a story and I totally, have you by your attention. So I think you have to keep customizing yourself, to the story. And hopefully with every story, you keep searching for the formula.
Yeah, true. But what about things like, so we spoke about the telling of the story, but what about the story itself, the structure of the story and things like that? Where have you got your lessons from?
Just by watching films, reading books. I don't know. I haven't had any formal training as such. But this is
which is what makes the question interesting. Otherwise, you could have named a teacher.
I never had any formal training as such. But my biggest advantage, I think, is when I was growing up, I didn't have any things like TV or internet or similar. I just had books. So I read a lot. That was my only proper pastime. Whether I was in a toilet, I was in my room, or I was eating, I always read. I think somewhere that probably helped me to structure in terms of the beginning, the middle, the end. A lot of people come to me and tell me all these fundamental things like act 1, act 2, like fuck I know what they are. I have no clue what they are, right? I don't even know. I just know if I have a story, this is my story.